This is the Mint on ZTN Prime, your sneak peek into the world of business, finance, and economies. We're coming to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. Let's get started. Now, coming up, Zimbabwe's financial debate has been dominated by talk of a liquidity crunch, but evidence suggests a more nuanced picture. The IMF's 2025 Article 4 report points to deliberate monetary tightening by the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, not scarcity, as the driver behind current conditions. After a 215% surge in the ZiG monetary base in 2024 triggered instability, the RBZ moved to restore confidence through tighter policies and higher reserve requirements. Now, as monetary discipline takes center stage, questions arise over its impact on credit creation, a stability-first policy, and how can Zimbabwe balance tight control with the need to channel funds toward the productive sectors of the economy. We unpack this very You're watching The Mint as we come to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. By the RBZ, following a 215% surge in the ZiG base in 2024. With tighter policies now in place, the quick question is whether banks face real shortages or are simply adjusting to a stability-first strategy, and how this affects credit to productive sectors driving growth. Of course, this being the list. Tapiwa, hello and welcome to The Mint.
Afternoon, Eben.
Fantastic. Always a pleasure having in conversation. Now, the first question is this. Is Zimbabwe really experiencing a liquidity crunch, or are we witnessing the effects of deliberate monetary tightening to stabilize the ZiG and rein in inflation, as it were?
You cannot do not really go hand in hand, because at the end of the day, we are saying that the RBZ is trying to discourage borrowing. Like we had the past years, we had consumptive borrowing. Even if you look at the balance sheet in the sector, so they are trying to rein in that consumptive borrowing. So that's why you see that we have got a high interest rate of around 45 in effect, tightening the money supply in order to achieve its goals of low inflation and reduce depreciation of the currency.
Right. What's your take on the regime that we've got in place in terms of the statutory reserves?
I think it goes hand in hand. We had a very high inflation in the previous 4 or 5 years, and RBZ is trying to put that down first. I think they are around the second quarter or third quarter next year.
Right. Let's delve into the recent IMF report that was released, of course, by the Bretton Woods for the ZiG, grew by over 215% between April and September of 2024. How do we reconcile the surge in liquidity with market perceptions of a tightening environment?
The perceptions and the reality, like they do not want to lend it out because they are trying to preserve against a currency depreciation. We also see that there might be an increase in money supply, but that are being used to fund our projects, our infrastructure projects. So that's why you might not feel the inflation from that exchange rate.
Right. In the past, the money supply has been, the assumed office has been quite adamant that that would not happen under his watch, to quote his sentiments. The central bank governor done a good job at that or not?
The central bank governor has lived to his word. He has lived up to locally. Our local borrowings are going high. It also comes down to the retentions, the treasury bills, and the other short form borrowing instruments. So the central bank is not printing money even without it being taken out. But now it's the private sector and the banks that are lending money to, rather than the first 5 years before the new governor.
Right. What would be the inflationary effect?
Government pays out, it pays out in tranches. It's not borrowing at the same time. So that's why you see contractors are being paid. It kind of slips into the system and does not and is not felt that much.
Now, to what extent is the first
crowding out funds because of the short-term nature of the instrument that they're giving out, the 3 months, 6 months, it means that private, like let's say a year, 2 years, 3 years, then it frees up funds for SMEs and the manufacturing sector. But also we should also bring out a 5-year term paper. People would look at them like, no, we used to have these and they did not go well.
Right. The IMF has flagged none in supporting the productive economy.
You know, there's a two answer. There's a two answer to that one. Firstly, the simple one is that they could be lending out. But if you dive into the situation, you see that banks might be hiding behind the finger. They have good excess funds that they have and to the productive sector. So right now, I think if you see most of the banks are now selling some of the properties that they had, that they bought in order to eat a big chunk of the private sector demand that is there.
But to digress, we'll be involved directly with contractors, and once some structures are up, the banks are the ones who are also within the real estate sector. What is your sentiment on that?
The contractors are correct to cry because the banks sell on a markup and pay back the loans. But now the banks are saying, no, we have the money, and they're also like taking out liquidity that they could be lending in the productive sectors of the economy. And they are quite around there. You go to the T and cybertech ones that they're selling now, have revolved and also
to take a breather. When we come back, we continue to look at the activities taking place in Zimbabwe on both the monetary and
tune into the beat.
Capitalk 100.4 FM, your source for news. 4 FM, Harare's top radio station.
Join the conversation with Zimbabwe's top personality.
That keeps you up to date with the hottest gizmos on the block and revealing the illustrious and innovative
mini electric car.
They've designed our brute force incubator board.
Look at what we've got here.
Solar powered.
94. Get the picture?
Welcome back to the Mentor, coming to you from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Eben Mabunda. We are taking a look at Tapiwa, picking up from where we left off before the break. The IMF notes that the ZIG is this. What does this mean for the economy?
No such an important factor. Like we have had stability. I think they ignore that now the informal sector. I can walk into a boutique, ask them, do you take ZIG? They say yes. So I think the perception, what it does now is that it complicates how we calculate, because the same POS machine that they use will reflect in the other. I say that's a lie. But we need to, figures are different. The RBZ says almost 30%, 40%. When there is a need to use ZIG, people use it. When people have the ZIG, people are no longer disposing ZIG as they used to do. So even coming down, you see now people, you can say, the person with ZIG now has something to offer. They can say, like bang, and we are now using the ZIG. So it's a process. And if you are honest to ourselves, and in talking about ZIG, even on the street, even in the informal sector. So I think it's a step forward. It's not about the number towards the ZIG.
Right. Let's talk about what's also obtaining on the ground. I was in Bulawayo 2 weeks ago. Gave him 10 ZIG. He gave me his word he was going to put it in a picture frame as an illustration to explain just how the printed version of the ZIG is not there out version of the ZIG. It's not out there. Why is that? And what's your sentiment where that is concerned?
I think the RBZ needs to do something on that one, but they decided not to print more, not to design more of cash, and wait for the new notes. You cannot just walk around and ask for Zig cash and they get it. So that one, yes, they say we want to go paperless, but people also believe notes into the system.
Right. Let's talk about the situation that we've got in the economy where and you get the indication that banks have not been lending as much. I know you did speak to the aspect of lending from our financial institutions.
That one is a tight one because last year we talked to some of the executives of the banks and they were saying we are not when monocurrency comes. What are they going to do to the existing USD contracts? So it also plays on the mind of the bankers. They say the contracts that are being set now, they will want the highest office to say the same thing so that it gains
There's
power.
confidence.
Exactly. So that it dovetails with everyone. To the other side is that banks, I think, when it comes to the non-funded income, you see that when in the past we no longer have revaluation gains, we no longer have the foreign currency exchange gains. So the balance sheet are starting to come out for liquidity by selling the positions that they were in. I know of a bank right now that is looking for someone to build liquidity because the market is hungry for liquidity. The market wants liquidity. So the banks are now trying to the horticultural sector is because of that 2030 issue. They believe that because the horticultural sector exports, and we are saying that we'll be paying you in Zig, that will be a monocurrency. So that's where the confusion or sort of the caution is coming from. But where we are going, I think if things stay as they are.
Let me jump in there for a second. So much talk, so much deliberation around that particular subject. What is your sentiment? What have you gathered at this particular point? And
if the policy that the RBZ governor and his deputy are saying that contracts settled the economy will run until maybe 2033, 2035, if they manage to de-dollarize by 2030, because most contracts are going to be done contracts. Yeah, I heard one bank was saying, I think it's now time to start giving mortgages of 8 to 10 years. So if you calculate 8 to 10 years from today, you see that it's around. But for businesses and industry, I think that they will make their de-dollarization around 2033 and 2035.
what does business want?
From what they're saying, from what we hear, in, because they say they know what people want, because they interact with people every day. Yes, you make the policies, but you don't interact with people every day. We know what people want, so we can without our buy-in. So they're saying, let us be part of the process, and if 2030 is too near, we can adjust it. It's not
The analyst of pure